If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plum. Let's get started.
Welcome to Real Sense Now. It's your host, Dawood Bedrosian, your go-to podcast for captivating discussions on real estate and entrepreneurship. Today, I have a special treat for you guys. Joining us is Levi Lascsak, whose journey from combat to closing deals has captivated audiences worldwide. No pun intended there. This guy is a YouTube sensation. If you want to learn more about how to passively prospect, which I promise you we're going to be talking about, because when I heard about it, I was like, what is this guy on about? How do you passively prospect? I only know how to actively do everything, right? I think, the book helps entrepreneurs, real estate agents, mortgage agents improve their communication and their ability to build instant rapport. And the book is a great read as well, too. It's definitely a book you need to consider because I definitely want to learn how to passively prospect. And I think following your method, I started to get lots more leads, lots of customers that started to connect with what I was sharing the beauty of my city, restaurants that I was going to, homes we were showing, and actually building a better book of business that way as well, too. Your journey starting in YouTube and becoming probably one of the fastest growing channels in Dallas is remarkable, because in the book you talk about how when you started in real estate, you really weren't doing any deals. Tell us about that journey.
Well, I came into real estate with intention, and really not to be a real estate agent, but to be a business owner. And so that was something I didn't want to get caught up. What I did was whenever I had to pause in 2020, and whenever I was asking myself, well, how do I start over without starting over? But then I was also asking myself, how did I get to this point? How could I be 41 years old and have everything taken away from me, regardless of what it is? Doesn't matter if it's a pandemic, an illness, deployment, which that had hindered me previously. So I had to say, okay, what's the main problem? What I realized was I was the main problem. Everything was dependent upon me. All my sales experience, businesses before that, I was the sole character. I didn't scale. I didn't have a team in place. I didn't have lead generation platforms that worked while I sleep. So that's what I had to figure out. And so I took time over the summer of 2020, instead of watching Tiger King, I just did a lot of research. And what I started to learn was that, well, if I'm going to get into real estate, I wanted to have a plan. I think most people get a license and then they're kind of like, all right, where do I go from here?
Like, how do I get my first customer and buy or sell
what's
something?
Next? Yeah. And so I just said, no, I'm going to figure out a plan. And if I can see a plan, then I'll get into real estate. So as I started to look at that, I wanted to figure out, is there a way to attract business? My friend was talking to me about attraction, and that word just really resonated with me. It stuck with me. I thought, okay, attraction, because he was talking about attracting agents to a brokerage, and I thought, well, can you attract real estate business? Because I also thought, how am I going to break into Dallas, Texas, when there's brokers and agents that have been there for 10, 20, 30 years, well established? Like, how do I get my foot in that market and make any impact? Well, I found a gap, and I found that gap. And whenever I started to really study video and started to study YouTube, that's what I started to learn. First of all, I learned that YouTube's a search engine, not a social media platform. And I was really uncomfortable with social media. I didn't want to be a dancing real estate agent on TikTok.
Neither do I.
But then I thought, YouTube's a search engine, makes sense. Well, now I can create content what people are searching and just get in front of those people. Plus, I didn't know how to be a good real estate agent. I had never done it before. I had never written a contract or even opened a door for somebody to show them a home. So if I started making content about that, it didn't feel like it would be authentic. So, but I have lived in Dallas for 20 plus years. And whenever I started to figure out, well, people are searching about suburbs and neighborhoods and things to do and places to be, well, I know that stuff. I don't have to have written a contract. I haven't had to sell 100 homes to know what Dallas is like. And so I started selling the area, selling the communities, the neighborhoods, the suburbs. And that's what started attracting people in there. And what I found was during that time, Now, timing was very critical at that time as well, especially with all the restrictions and regulations happening in coastal states and, the Pacific Northwest and things like that. Definitely drove a lot of people to the area, but we've been able to maintain since then as well and have a strong presence. So overall, what I discovered is once I created a video that YouTube didn't take me time. It made me time. And whenever I realized, I started waking up with emails in my inbox, phone messages, people booking on our Zoom calendar while I was sleeping or whenever I was out doing something else. And I just realized, oh, okay. And then they're telling me in these emails, look, we would like you to be our agent. You could see the excitement. Or when we jumped on the phone, they were like, I can't believe it's you. And that's whenever I realized we have a true attraction model and we were delivering value.
When I read the book, you basically spilled the beans or shared the secrets about your success. And honestly, I followed the breadcrumbs. I followed your success journey. And I too have learned exactly what you need to do to passively prospect. Because when you do that, you no longer have to sell yourself. The client already knows who you are.
Yep.
They want to connect with you because they chose you over anybody else. But for the people that are listening, I really want to make them understand the distinction on what passive prospecting actually means, how it works, and how does it differ from traditional ways of doing it, or better yet, active prospecting.
Well, look, I've been in sales for 20 plus years. I've knocked on doors. I've cold called. Like I started out selling gym memberships at Bally Total Fitness. And the whole goal was to get 5 people in the gym the next day to tour the gym. Well, guess what you had to do? You had to make 8 hours of phone calls every day to try to get people to come in the gym to take a tour, right? And then you could sell them a membership. From there, I moved into selling cell phones. Actually, I sold, if you've ever been inside Costco, that little cell phone booth, I sold cell phones there in 2007. And guess what? Nobody really goes to Costco to buy a cell phone. They go to buy, 50 rolls of toilet paper at once. So everybody that walked through that door, it was my goal to try to talk to every single person and get them to the cell phone booth, because most of the time people didn't even know they sold cell phones at Costco. And then I got into pharmaceuticals, and guess what I had to do? I had to go to office to office to office and figure out when was the right time to see the doctor. When could I slip in? When's the least amount of reps going to be there that day? And the same thing with financial services. When I started working with teachers on retirement planning, the way I got in the door was by email marketing. I would email market them just to try to get out. My goal was always 3 to 5 appointments a day, but I had to do that through, because you couldn't cold call teachers at school, right? There's no list, but we could find the email list. Yeah. And so I felt like I spent 90% of my time pursuing active prospecting. And usually when you're in sales, that's what you're doing, right? You're actively prospecting, you're chasing everyone down. Why? Because you want to meet somebody. And this is where sales training comes into place, right? Because it teaches you how to build rapport, establish credibility, develop relationships. And when you're in that environment, you have to do that in a very short time period, especially like trying to sell someone a cell phone the 10 minutes after you meet them in Costco. You've got to build rapport very quickly, establish that they've got a problem or have a need, right, that you can fulfill for them. And then you've got to actually get them to come out of pocket. That's a very quick cycle. Same thing with touring somebody around a gym. So, and it's endless. And you know what? Every day you go to bed, when you wake up, guess what you have to do? You have to start all over again. So that's what I didn't want to do, any of that. And so
how did you discover this concept of passive prospecting then? Like, did you wake up one day and go, hey, I'm going to do this instead? And what made you realize its potential in real estate?
Well, I didn't. I just knew if I wanted to, what was I going to do during 2020? There wasn't events. There wasn't networking events. Right. I didn't really have a strong sphere of influence, you could say. I didn't want to. I didn't want to bug my friends and family. I didn't want to put out the Facebook post of, hey, everybody, I'm a real estate agent now. Make sure you call me to buy, sell, or invest, right? Yeah. I dreaded that. So I just started thinking, okay, if I'm going to attract business, it's probably going to be through social media, but which platform? Here's a mistake most people make is they get a license or they start a business and somebody tells them, hey, make sure you're everywhere. Get on every single platform. And what they end up doing is putting 20% effort across 5 different platforms. They never truly understand or master one platform. I didn't want to make that mistake. So I said, I'm going to choose one platform. And I studied all the platforms for a brief period of time, right? I just said, okay, let me because I knew the platforms were powerful. If you don't understand the back end and how they work, then you'll always spin your wheels typically. I mean, so I think everyone thinks that they're going to post content and go viral and that's going to be their business, right? Or they heard a story of that happen, but that's very, very rare. I wanted to take a very systematic, intentional approach about this. So I just studied the platforms. YouTube was actually the last choice. But whenever I discovered it was a search engine, and I never even thought of YouTube but as I start researching, you read blogs, I bought books, I bought YouTube marketing books, and I found that in a book. It was one line: YouTube's a search engine, not a social platform. And I thought that was the bells going off. Okay, it's a search engine. Now if I can figure out what people are searching, I've already got an established audience on these particular topics. So that's what kind of led me down that path. And once I started to create the videos, and I never made a cold call, never knocked on a door, never sent out a postcard. And whenever the phone started to ring and people already knew me, which the video had built the relationship for me. In my 20 plus years of sales, I've never ever experienced a client that came to me with the relationship already in place and said,
I couldn't agree with you.
Yeah, Levi, I love your videos. I want to do business with you. And this ties back into the NAR settlement, by the way. It's more important now than ever to differentiate yourself. Nothing's really changed on the buy side, except now you have to get that buyer rep signed immediately. Before, we were probably a little relaxed on that, right? We would go out and we would show a few homes sometimes, and maybe we'd get it signed whenever we wrote the first offer, but that's not going to be the case. And now, nothing against Aunt Sally, but now Aunt Sally, who has a real estate license and sells 1 or 2 homes a year, it's going to be a very big challenge for that person to be able to distinguish their credibility and the reason that you should pay them if you have to come out of pocket, right?
So then let's just address the elephant in the room again. I love this elephant. So you touched on a couple of really interesting things. It's all about adding value.
Yep.
It's about connecting and communicating to your buyer. This transformation is what's going to shape everything. We had less sales in 2023 than when the market crashed in 2008.
Yep.
We had how many agents exit the market?
Last year?
Yeah, 70,000, something like that.
That's what I heard. Yeah, 60 to 70,000.
Whatever. A lot of people are out of business. So that Aunt Sally that you're talking about, I get it. But you wrote the book. You're the expert. I have a kid in my house that wants to be a YouTube star, right? And he's got 50,000 followers that follow his content because of whatever anime stuff that he does. And it's really great. But for the listeners,
Oh, nice.
With the listeners that are listening, I want you to share with the thousands of people that are watching this, listening to us, in terms of how do you actually apply your marketing skills to grow your YouTube channel so that you can actually generate inbound leads?
Well, you have calls to action. You ask for the business. It was funny. I was in Cabo last week, spoke at an event there, and that's what I made the theme of that talk was about, was just ask. Just ask for the business. So yes, you can provide value, but in the video at some point, I always say, hey, reach out to us. All of our information's in the description below. Happy to help you make a smooth move to Dallas. And so I say things for a reason. Happy to help you, which makes people go, okay, look, he wants to help us make a smooth move to Dallas. What's everyone's biggest fear whenever they move is having an issue, a nightmare, problems. You said it earlier, you're a problem solver. Well, if I say help you make a smooth move, what am I? I'm communicating to people that it's an easy process with us, right? And I let them also know that, look, we get people reach out to us every single day, just like you, looking to make their move there. So again, that's just communicating to them that it's okay to reach out.
Yep.
So just saying a few key phrases. Plus I tell them, subscribe if you want to be the first to know about the current market in Dallas. So that also is wording to give them an idea that by subscribing, they're kind of like an insider, right? And they're coming to me to be able to be the first to know, especially in this market, which seems to change now on a daily to weekly basis.
Yeah.
Especially with news and the internet and everything that's going on right now, it gives them value. It gives them reason and justification to take the action on their side.
I love it. Levi, thank you for sharing your incredible journey and your insights. Your entrepreneurial spirit is really what drives me to want to have you on the show as often as you want to come on. To our listeners, remember to check out Levi and Travis's YouTube channel, Living in Dallas, and of course, Passive Prospecting. You should go out and get the book. You can get it on what is it?
book.passiveprospecting.com.
There you go.
Book.passiveprospecting.
That's why you do the plug and I just have you on the show. Stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to continue our insightful conversation and tap into how you can expand your business through passive prospecting on platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Catch you after the break.
Allow me to take a quick break to remind you that we have very important links in the description below. If you want the full story of how we closed over $1 million in commissions our first year and over $2.3 million in commissions our second year, check out the first link. Also, you have the link to our #1 Amazon best-selling book, Passive Prospecting. Last, if you enjoy this podcast and you're a giving person, leave a 5-star review, please. Now back to the episode.
Welcome, Real Sensors, to another incredible Real Sense. It seems like it's a university masterclass here on passive prospecting. Of course, Real Sense now is your go-to podcast for captivating discussions on real estate and entrepreneurship. And I'm joined by none other than a good friend of mine and an expert YouTuber who also happens to have a real estate license. Thanks for joining us on the show. And thanks for sharing how you've shattered barriers and redefined what it actually means to succeed in real estate, but in your own way. So, when you look back at your journey, what advice would you give aspiring entrepreneurs in terms of how to achieve that rapid success just like you did?
Wow. Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I always say follow the path. Well, first of all, I have very simple rules for success, which is whatever industry you're in, just say, okay, who's at the top? How did they get there? How can I model that? How can I adjust it to fit my personality? And then can I do it better than them? That's it, really. So no matter what industry you're in, somebody is already at the top. So just go there, hack that. Now, on top of that, if you're in a business, for me, like real estate, look, I understand even everybody listening to this right now may not want to start making videos on YouTube. So here's what you need to do. You need to find out, are you a people person? Are you a reader and a writer? Are you a phone call person? Or are you a video person? Because if you follow the path of least resistance, you're likely to stay in the industry a lot longer. Because if I tell you to make videos and you absolutely hate making videos, or you're so scared to death that you'll never make a video, well, then guess what? You'll never do any business. But what if you're a people person? Well, if you're a people person, then say, okay, what's all the ways I could really talk to people in the real estate industry to generate business? I could do open houses. I could do networking events. I could hold community events. I could go to all the PTA meetings, whatever the case may be. If you're a meter and a greeter, a handshaker and love kissing babies, then figure out all the ways to generate business in that avenue and go do that. Some people hate getting rejected in person or doing networking or those types of things, but they will make 100 phone calls a day.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Yeah. But so go ahead, go make 100 phone. But guess what? Now, when you've done that, if you decided you want to be an open house person or a phone call person, go onto Amazon, put in open house marketing, or go onto Amazon and put in FSBO marketing. And guess what? There's going to be 1,000 books that pop up there. Sort them by most reviews, most relevant, year published. I mean, you probably don't want to get a cold calling book from the 80s or 90s.
Yes.
If somebody wrote it in the last year or two, maybe better. FSBO marketing, those types of things. Buy 5 to 10 books. Read every single one of those books. Go onto YouTube, put in FSBO marketing. Guess what? You're going to have 1,000 videos of people telling you how they, make FSBO calls, right? Or open house marketing, and study it. Become an expert on what you would be most comfortable generating business and go all in about that. If you read at least 5 books, you'll be more proficient on 99% of the population, especially in real estate, on that subject, because guess what? Nobody does that.
And it doesn't only apply to real estate. So for you listeners out there that may have a hobby, may have a side hustle, may have a business that's in a completely different space, this information is evergreen. And I think what's important is not to be afraid of communicating with your client. I talk to a lot of people that are like, I don't like doing videos. I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. I'm like, guess what?
Well, guess that's the way you sound and look.
That's how you show up in life. So if you don't like that, then you might as well just stay at home, right?
Well, the funny thing is that, you're your voice is a different audible level or decibel level between in your head.
Yeah.
So when you hear yourself on a voicemail or on a video, or guess what? That's how you actually sound to the rest of the world. So you're used to one thing, but the reality is it's another way. But that's the great thing about video. The people that call us have already made a decision that they want to work with us. So guess what? They already know what we look like. They already know what we sound like. This happens a lot with people that don't have the primary language as English. They're usually a little self-conscious about their accent. And my comment to that is great. The people that call you already know you have an accent. They already know how you speak. They know that. Now, if you're calling cold internet leads, I could see how, if you don't speak perfect English, that may be a little bit of an issue, right? And probably for me too, as a buyer, if somebody calls me and it's hard to understand them, I don't know, I may not buy, or I may not be more likely to buy, right? So that could be a challenge. That's a challenge you could overcome. But I think if you have that, then make a video, because everybody that calls you will want to do business with you.
You say a line that you repeated earlier, and I want you to repeat it here as well too. How YouTube didn't cost you time, but made you more time.
Makes time, yeah.
And you always talk about working on your business, and we keep hearing it, not in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the parallels of these two and how it can ensure 100% guaranteed success if you follow your method.
Well, if you invest into real estate, stocks, or crypto, or whatever it is you invest, if I asked you, what's the number one question you ask yourself before you invest into something?
I would probably say, do I know enough about this?
Right.
Am I comfortable to do it? Because I know a lot of the investments that I did in areas that I didn't know about, I promise you I didn't do well in.
Okay.
Unless I followed someone who was an expert in that field.
And if you're going to put money into something, then what would be your second question?
Who's the best in the industry that I can go and follow and model against, because they already have cracked the secret to being successful in that space, and I want to get there as fast as possible.
And then also when it comes to your money, you want to know what your return is, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
I mean, because why would you invest into something if it's losing money? So if you're investing into stocks, real estate, or crypto, you should be saying, okay, what's my return? I want to know what's my likely return. Well, how come we don't ask that question when it comes to investing our time into something? If they say time is the most valuable asset, then why wouldn't we ask that question? And so I don't know what gives you a better return on your time than video. If it takes me 30 minutes to make a video, as soon as that video is watched 31 minutes, to me, I've profited 1 minute of my time. But I've got videos that have been watched 11,800 hours, just one video. Well, if I divide that by 24 hours in a day, that's equivalent to like 1.4 years.
That's crazy, right?
So people say I don't have time to make a video, and I'm going, well, that's exactly why you should make a video, because if you don't have time to take 30 minutes to make a video, you're not leveraged properly, right?
Well, in addition to that, the people that are following you love that area that you're into, whether it's cars or model airplanes or real estate or whatever the case may be. And I think that the crucial part here is to realize that, look, I picked up several clients from a video that was made 4 years ago about how to help Canadians buy Florida real estate. That was the title of the thing. So let's get to it. You convinced me. I'm going to start going out and doing videos. I actually started doing videos after I read your book, a lot more. But how do you go about approaching content planning, content creation? How do you ensure what you're talking about is relevant in order for you to engage with your audience?
Well, I mean, you research it. So, I mean, that's the great thing about Google and YouTube is you can find the search results on whatever it is you do. I mean, if I got out of real estate tomorrow, I would start making videos on whatever industry I moved into. There's a lot of content right now, especially with, I think about one guy I like to follow, Andy Elliott. I don't know. Have you seen any of his, and it's funny.
He's wild, huh?
Yeah, I love watching, he's teaches a lot of the car business and he's always yelling at everyone. I mean, he has a soft side too, clearly, but it's funny because he smacks people upside the head and he's teaching them how to close, right? Yeah. How to, have all these tactics, right? Which is what you need in the sales industry. But I'm thinking if I went in the car industry tomorrow, guess what I'd do? I'd start making a video on every single car on my lot. And I'd do comparison videos. I would do test drives. I would do all that. People would walk into the dealership and say, Is Levi here? Is Levi here? Is Levi? And the other people would get sick of it because they'd be pounding the phones. They'd be working at, trying to think of all these tactics and all these efforts to do that. And I'd be sitting there having people just walk in the dealership saying, hey, where's Levi? I trust him. I love that review you did on that car. So that's the type of things that I would be doing.
So it's funny you say that. My mentor, Alistair, basically created this multi-billion $1 million business doing videos in dealerships for service and for cars people were interested in. Hey, this is the car, this is the video you're driving. Whenever you're ready, come on down to the dealership and come and check it out. I want to end here. What are some of the common pitfalls or mistakes you've observed when people are trying to create content, and what should you avoid immediately?
Inconsistency. I mean, you have to commit. You have to commit to some sort of schedule. If you're going to do one video a week, do one video a week for the rest of your life. If you're going to do 2 videos, as long as you want to be in the business, right? I mean, as long as lead generation is an important part of your business, then just commit to that. I looked at my market, and there was really only 2 other agents at the time that were creating videos, and they were only creating videos once a week. So, but they had about a year head start on me. Actually, one had 7,000 subs. The other had 5,000 subs. And I thought, well, if I'm ever going to catch them, I've got to double or triple their work. So guess what I did? I came out with 3 videos a week for 2 years. No breaks, no inconsistency. I committed to 3 videos a week. And that's probably why I became the fastest growing channel, was because I just outworked everybody. But I passed up, actually, I caught that first channel around the 12,000 subscriber mark. We're now well over 31,000 subscribers on the channel, and they're right at 13,000. So not only did I catch them, I've more than doubled, that subscriber count. And I know the amount of business we're doing compared to them off of their channel, and it's astronomical. So now do I do 3 videos a week? No, it's a lot easier to ramp up and then scale back a little bit once you have that momentum. But, the thing is that I've also had other agents create videos on my channel, and they've done just as well. Because once the audience is established, then that's also it's an exit strategy for me down the road.
I love it. If you want to know all the secrets we've been talking about, all you have to do is go out and buy the book, Passive Prospecting, or just check out Levi's YouTube channel, which is Living in Dallas and Passive Prospecting. Of course, if you want to follow me, have a question, follow me on my YouTube channel, which is Dawood Bedrosian. You can also catch me on any one of my social media platforms. That's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, even TikTok. There's no dancing videos, I promise. Just by typing in my name, Dawood Bedrosian. If you have a real estate question, I will always be here for you. And always remember, whether the real estate market trends upwardly or trends downwardly, real estate will always trend upwardly over time. Catch you next time. It's your host, Dawood Bedrosian, and you're listening to Real Sense Now.
Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching at no cost, schedule a call at passiveprospectingpartner.com.